A Seattle landlord can't evict a drug addicted tenant who terrorizes neighbors, causes violent incidents in the parking lot, and had three separate overdoses within his unit. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of Seattle, Washington. Obviously, Seattle is one of those places where I say if you're a small landlord in particular, you might want to think of investing somewhere else because they don't care about your property rights there. They treat you as though you're a villain, and they want to impose just tons of different rules and regulations that make it very, very difficult to operate your business. So one of those things is that they make it very hard to evict tenants, at least tenants who are actually paying the rent. And so in this story right now, we have a tenant who is terrorizing the neighbors and actually had three separate overdoses within his unit. And this landlord is having a lot of difficulty in getting rid of this problem tenant. So when you have a problem tenant like this, terrorizing your other tenants, it brings the whole building down. And that's part of the reason why we need to have some sort of way, some sort of mechanism within the law to be able to remove these sort of tenants. But in places like Seattle, they consider, oh, well, the tenant's just this poor victim. No, when you see this video, you're going to know this tenant is not a victim, that this is a problem causer, and that this landlord has every right to try to get this person up out of there. So before I get into the video, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. Have you ever dealt with a problem tenant who maybe miraculously kept paying the rent? So you had to remove them through other means, be it, lease violation or whatever, I mean, just because the person is paying the rent doesn't mean that you want to keep that person up in there. This is part of the reason why I always say these just cause eviction laws are garbage, okay? I don't believe in them. I believe that at the end of a 12-month term, if the landlord doesn't want to renew, they should be allowed to do so. And that's not an eviction. That's just the terms of our contract have come to an end. And unfortunately, these politicians, they don't understand the way that things really are. There's a multitude of reasons why a landlord might not want to extend the lease with somebody, and that should be left up to the individual property owner. Okay, so anyway, let's get into the article. This article is coming from comonews.com, and it says, Fentanyl crisis clashes with eviction regulations for a Seattle landlord. And yeah, this is a bad scenario for this landlord. So I'm going to show you a quick video to show exactly what's going on in this scenario right now.
The ambulances were there. They took out two people that had overdosed.
You slip one. Osho Berman says the two people invited by the problem tenant were revived, but the drug issues were far from done.
4 days later, the tenant overdosed.
Berman says he has tried to evict a tenant before, but given the housing regulations, his lawyer told him it was useless. Berman says his other renters don't feel safe.
And there's children living right next door to this, with people overdosing left and right, people with bringing in drug traffic left and right.
The landlord shared this surveillance footage of a tenant armed with a screwdriver slashing at neighbors in a vicious parking lot brawl.
I still, even with this on camera, I could not get this guy out.
Given the dangerous behavior and criminal activity, we wanted to find out, are evictions that difficult?
Meantime, that's a house.
For answers, we sat down with Sean Flynn of the Rental Housing Association of Washington. Is Osho Berman's experience unique, or are other landlords having this happen?
He's not unique. No, that is a common issue.
Flynn says it is not just Seattle law, but layers of county and state regulations that restrict landlords from quickly removing dangerous renters.
All right, you saw the video. Let's get into the article. The fentanyl crisis is challenging a Seattle landlord who said he can't evict the troublemakers who are overdosing in his building. Late last month, 3 people overdosed on fentanyl in a single North Seattle apartment complex. Osho Berman, the property owner, said the city's restrictions on removing renters put his other tenants at risk. While most of the people who rent from him are respectful, Berman said there are other tenants who terrorize their neighbors. An incident with fentanyl is just the latest concern. And, all of the drug problems, I hate drugs. I hate drugs. Okay. Literally, I hate them. Okay. So I wish that they would just disappear, but they cause such huge issues. And I feel bad for the people who are addicted to them. I feel bad because these people have this horrible addiction hanging over them, and it makes them do crazy, crazy things. And they impose, their craziness upon to the rest of society, and we all have to deal with it. But we shouldn't be forced to deal with it. And this landlord shouldn't be forced to house these people who are going through this horrible eviction problem. I'm sorry, not eviction, addiction. I'm getting the two words mixed up. If you're going through a horrible addiction problem, we shouldn't have to put up with it. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you have somebody up in your unit, they're terrorizing the other people, maybe robbing, stealing, doing property damage, overdosing within your unit, you should be able to get rid of them. Okay, they are too much of a problem. And if there's kids living there, they don't need that around them. If there's good people living there, they don't need that around them. If there's elderly people living there, they don't need that around them. Okay, and I am not a social service provider for every drug addict in town. Okay, so simply put, I should be allowed to remove them. This landlord should be allowed to remove them. But let's continue. The ambulances were there. They took out 2 people that had overdosed, and my on-site manager went down to the unit and tried to talk to the tenant, Berman said. The tenant told the on-site manager to mind his own business and butt out. The 2 people invited by the problem tenant were revived, but Berman said, but the drug issues were far from done. 4 days later, the tenant overdosed, Berman said. Berman has tried to evict the tenant before, but given the housing regulations, his lawyer told him it was useless. Meanwhile, Berman said his other tenants don't feel safe. Yeah, keep that in mind, okay? Whenever you put these regulations saying that we can't evict people or we can't remove these people in place, right? We're not the only ones impacted. The other people who have to live around these garbage, horrible, criminal people are also impacted. These laws, they have consequences. These laws that your politicians are putting in place, this is why no tenant should sit there and be like, oh, you know what, I think that no tenant should ever be evicted for any reason. No, that's dumb. That is so dumb. And when you have a garbage neighbor right next to you and your landlord can't get rid of them, well, then you'll understand. There's children living right next door to this with people overdosing left and right, people bringing in drug traffic left and right. And as a landlord, the city is telling me I can't do anything about it, Berman said. You wonder why affordable housing is becoming so scarce in Seattle because nobody wants to provide low income, affordable housing in Seattle if they can't deal with these situations and manage out these problems to maintain a safe environment for all the other tenants. Now, that is a very telling quote from this landlord, right? And I completely agree with that, right? They basically are destroying their own affordable housing. There's no reason why anybody would want to provide affordable housing in a place where you can't get rid of this. Okay, you're just stuck with these type of people in there. Yeah, why would you want to deal with that? Nobody does. As a landlord, I choose personally not to go 100% affordable because these same problems, they exist all over. And fortunately, I invest in places where if I do run into a problem tenant such as this, I can actually remove them. But this guy, he's not so lucky. He's not so lucky. And the other tenants in the building who have to deal with it, they're not so lucky either. So yeah, man, craziness going up there in Seattle. Beyond the drugs, the landlord shared surveillance footage of a tenant armed with a screwdriver slashing at neighbors in a vicious parking lot brawl. I still, even with this on camera, I could not get this guy out, Berman said. Given the dangerous behavior and criminal activity, Como News wanted to see if other landlords face the same challenges when trying to evict tenants who endanger their neighbors. Yeah, you saw the video. I played the video, and you saw the tenants in a brawl in the parking lot with a screwdriver. And if he couldn't get the tenant out, then what's it going to take? I mean, literally, he murdering someone in the parking lot. Is that what it's going to take? It should never, ever go that far. This is an unfortunate situation, and I feel bad, but this is a warning. This is a warning for people who think, oh, I can go in here in Seattle and I can buy this property. I'm not going to have any problems, right? It's never a problem until it is a problem, okay? Until you do need to remove a tenant from your property, it's not going to be a problem. And when that day comes, it's going to be awful for you as a landlord, as you spend tens of thousands of dollars as a person possibly tears your property apart, does criminal activity within your property, and you can't get rid of them because of the stupid local laws. So, bad story, but I had to share it. I had to put it out there that there's problems going on in city of Seattle in particular, but all of the cities that are very progressive, very anti-landlord, they're having the same type of issues where landlords can't remove these problem tenants from their properties.